everybody. Test, can people hear me? All right. I do have a little housekeeping to do. Affiliate Summit would like to remind you to fill out the feedback form, or you can use the networking app and log into your schedule. Under your session there will be an option for the survey poll. If they fill out the paper form, they may turn it in to any staff member. And every day, 5 entries will be randomly drawn to receive a Networking Plus Pass for the Affiliate Summit West 2018 in Vegas. So hey, leave me good feedback and maybe win a pass. All right, hi everybody, I'm Jim Kukral. Thanks everybody for showing up. I'm glad to have you here. I only have 30 minutes with you today. So we're gonna make this really fast, short, and sweet. And if you have questions, you can find me after, and I'd be happy to help you out. The topic of this is the 5 different business models you can build around your book, but it's also gonna talk about how to generate more profits with a nonfiction book, okay? So we're gonna talk about how to maximize revenue from nonfiction books. We're gonna talk about how to take your book and build a business around that book. That's really what this is about, and some of the business models that are gonna be available to you and how you can get started today. So real quick, who here has written a book? Anyone have a book? Okay, nonfiction books. Keep your hand up if you have a nonfiction book. So you have a couple people here with nonfiction books, and you have a fiction book? Okay, so we're talking about nonfiction books today, but
I'm writing a nonfiction.
there we go. There we go. Fantastic news. So who am I? I've actually keynoted this event 6 years ago. I've been involved with the creators of this event since they first started it 16 years ago. There's me actually signing books after my keynote event here 6 years ago. I wrote my first book with Wiley & Sons 7 years ago, and I keynoted here at this event. And I've authored 10 books since then. Only one of them traditionally published, the rest have been self-published. And I've made a career out of the last 6 years of creating content in book form and building businesses around those books, okay? So I teach for the University of San Francisco, blah, blah, blah. Enough about me, I like to go fishing too, okay? Let's get into the stuff. There are 2 reasons people use the internet, and 2 reasons only. Number 1 is to have a problem solved, and number 2 is to be entertained. It's the only 2 reasons people use the internet, okay? When you think about it, YouTube, entertainment, and also problem solving. I went there last week to find a video on how to fix my lawnmower, right? Google, the world's biggest and best problem solver. Why do they continue to win? Because they solve problems faster and better than anyone else in the world. When you think about nonfiction books, you are problem solving. That's all it is about. Same with all types of content marketing. A nonfiction book is all about problem solving. Fiction is all about entertainment. So once you understand these 2 rules, you're in a good place to understand the concept. So the winning nonfiction formula for a nonfiction book is pretty much this. You write a great book that solves really great problems for people, okay? You build a business around that book. You use the book to drive leads to that business, and you profit, and then you wash, rinse, repeat over and over and over again, okay? So the first part I can't help you with. You got to figure out what type of great nonfiction book to write so that you can wow people, because the nonfiction book is what's going to help you. So let's do some math, though, because I don't have a lot of time, and I don't have a lot of time to go through all this. I am very bad at math, but I will do some very basic math, and some of these numbers are probably wrong, and someone's going to correct me. The average nonfiction author will only sell 800 copies of the book in their lifetime, and I think that's high. You're probably not going to sell that many copies of a nonfiction book. It's just not true. It's very hard to sell nonfiction books. So let's say you're the anomaly and you sold 1,000 books next year, and you sold 1,000 books at $5.99 on Amazon, and you made $5,900. Well, after you pay Amazon their cut, you made $4,130. Plus your costs, your cover, your editing, your marketing. Maybe you only made $2,000 from 1,000 books sold. You're getting my point here. Selling nonfiction books is not the biggest profit center when it comes to writing a nonfiction book. The point of writing a nonfiction book is to do other things. So what is your monthly number? I love to start with this. I want you to think in your head, don't say it out loud. I want you to think in your head what your monthly number is that you need to pay all your bills, to go out to one nice dinner every month or whatever. I don't care, it's $1,000, $10,000. I had one guy told me he needed to make $100,000 a month when I used to do consulting. He goes, I got to make $100,000 a month to pay my expenses and to live comfortably. I'm like, okay, let's work backwards from that. I want you to put that number in your head, because when you think about it from that perspective, you can start to analyze what you need to do to build an online business to reach that number. That's how it works for my brain, at least, okay? So let's say it's $5,000 a month. How are you going to get that number just from book sales? You're probably not going to get there unless you think you found a way to crack the system and sell a ton of nonfiction books. So let's just look at some examples of some nonfiction books that I randomly found on Amazon before I did this presentation. There's a book called Greenhouse Gardening for Beginners. So Nancy Ross has this wonderful book. She's selling it for $4.99, and it's a problem-solving book. So let's say she sold 1,000 copies of this book, but what's she leaving on the table, right? Let's be honest. It's going to be hard to sell 1,000 copies of this book. And this is about as a random example of a book I can give you. It's not even a business book. It's a niche product about gardening. So if she sold 1,000 books, she made almost $5,000. Maybe she makes $1,500 in profit. But what if she used the book to sell other things, like a greenhouse, do-it-yourself construction kit download, or prefab greenhouse structures, okay? The cost of selling something perhaps like an instant download product at $29.99 is much more money than you make from the $2 you're going to make from selling the copy of the book, right? So someone buys a copy of the book or even gets it for free, 99 cents maybe, and they open the book and they're like, oh, wow, this was a very informative book. But guess what? I do want to build my own greenhouse, and I'd love to have those plans. And look, right here in the book, it says, come to my website, and she'll give me that document, that instant download for $29 where I can download and get a copy. That's a great example of how to build a business around a book and passive income. Okay? You're solving a problem, because we'll talk about some of the truths and why people buy things. I do want to tell you this one story, though. There was a guy from Australia, this is probably 10 years old or longer, and he loved playing video games. He was in high school, and his PlayStation broke, and the red light came on. And he couldn't get it fixed, and he wanted to play video games. You know how kids do, you want to play video games. So he called Sony, and they said, send us your PlayStation, we'll send it back to you in 6 to 8 weeks. And he goes, I can't wait 6 to 8 weeks. He goes, well, they said, well, then buy a new PlayStation. So he took the PlayStation apart, he figured out how to fix the problem, and he goes, oh, that was easy. So he made a website, and he called it PlayStationRedLightFix.com or whatever it was. And the kid did a couple $100,000, $30 a time, because people found him on Google, and he gave him the option. You can send it back to Sony, or you can pay me $30, and I'll teach you how to fix it right now in your house. And he made a couple $100,000 over a year period out of high school, because he solved the problem that other people couldn't have. And I know that's not a book, but it's a good example of what we're talking about here. So if 10% of the people who bought the $1,000 of the book sold in this example here, you know, she could have made $60,000 as opposed to, what was it? It was like, you know, $1,400 or something from the book. So you're getting the concept of something. Here's another one, beekeeping, 2-in-1 beekeeping business tips and tricks. Again, a nonfiction book that is really it's just the most random book I could find online, but it's a niche book, okay? So this book, maybe they make $3,900, almost $4,000 from this. But what if they built a membership site about this? And it's about for people who want to learn how to beekeep. How many people know people who beekeep now? Does anybody know? Because I know 3 of them in Cleveland. And they're in urban areas, and they love beekeeping. And guess what? They're fanatical about beekeeping because they do it now. And why couldn't this person create a membership site where they could charge somebody to come in and learn about beekeeping every month and sell them products? This is another example of a business you can build around a book. And I know a lot of people right now are going to say, Jim, no one's joining a membership site about beekeeping. And I'm going to say this. There's a site called backyardchickens.com. Anyone ever hear of this? There are hundreds and hundreds and thousands, possibly millions of people who want to have chickens in their backyard. And guess what? They're fanatical, just like beekeepers. This has 326,211 members. This is a free site, but they sell all kinds of stuff in here. By the way, affiliate links galore on this site. They promote all kinds of products for backyard chickens on this site. This is a great example of how to build a community of people who are interested in a topic. And I don't care what you wrote your book about. If it solves a problem for a niche group of people, then you can write a book and build a business around that book. These guys make so much money. I love this example because it's just so off the wall, right? It's not the typical business type of thing. It's an amazing example of how people, if you build a place where people could go and give them content that they need, what they're fanatical about, you can be successful. All right, let's look at this one. Sports Analytics, a data-driven approach to sports business and management. This is a textbook. I mean, really, you're only getting this book if you're probably in a sports management class in college or something. So this book is $47.36. If he sells 100 of them, he makes almost $5,000. But what if he did a speaking gig for one time and makes $5,000 just from that one speaking gig from writing that book? Another business model of how you can earn revenue from a nonfiction book. This is not rocket science, like I say, rocket surgery, right? This is not rocket science. You guys all get the concept of writing a book and using it to do things like speaking and things like that. It's very possible. He can also do workshops for this. I know many people who write textbooks who go out and do this and do workshops, 2-day, 3-day, 7-day, to C-suite executive level, banks, and places like that, all because of the one little book that they have. And a lot of those people are here walking around the halls. I know a lot of people that have done this. It's an amazing way to generate credibility for yourself. I'm pretty sure you're all here and you're sold on the concept of writing the book and doing it, but think about the business around that book when you're writing that book. All right, so here's another one, another totally random example of a book. Civil War Firearms. It's just a book about people who are into Civil War and firearms from the Civil War. Such a small niche. But, I talked to this person. They live down near the Civil War area where all this stuff is. They know everything about this stuff. They could be doing tours in this. They could be charging $200 for a half-day tour, okay? I put this up here. It's a bad example, but I put it up here to prove to you that almost anyone can do this. You can build a business around whatever it is you want to, whatever type of book content you want to put out there. So if 10% of the 500 people who purchased that book bought from them, they make $10,000 as opposed to whatever it was, like, 1,000 or whatever. Here's another one, how to write a sizzling synopsis, enticing new readers, selling more fiction. And this is a really great one. My friend Brian Cohen wrote this book. He sells it for $2.99. He make $2,999 for 1,000 sales of this book. After profit, maybe he makes $2,000. But this book leads into two businesses, okay? And the first business is Best Page Forward, which is a $197 service. And Best Page Forward service at $200 a pop. If 10% of every 1,000 people who buy his book, he makes $19,700 a year at a $197 product. It's a little consulting service that helps people write descriptions for their books. Then he's got a course called Selling for Authors, which is $597. And I know for a fact he's making way more than that. If 10% of people, of 1,000, if he's converting at 10% of 1,000 people who buy his book, he's making almost $60,000 a year. And I know he's making more than that. And he's expanding into other things. So you have membership sites, courses, products, consulting, speaking gigs, so many different ways to earn revenue around a book. This is basically what this is all about. So let's talk about this. Why do people pay for things? We're getting a little psychological at this point. Why do people pay for things? Why do people want to have their problem solved? Well, they pay to have their problem solved. We got that concept. You all understand that concept. But people pay to save themselves time. I can't stress this enough. If you're going to build an online business and build it around a book that you're creating, you want to be able to save people's time. I have a product in my Author Marketing Club service where it just helps them extract reviewers from Amazon. Now, they can do it themselves. You can find 100 of these people, and it will take you about 8 hours. But my tool will allow you to do it in about 30 minutes with a click of a button. And that's why I can charge money for a monthly membership, because it saves them time. Write that down. Saving people time is probably one of the best things you can possibly do if you want to be successful and build an online business. You write that book that tells people all the answers to their problems, and then you give them a tool or a download or something else that they can purchase that's going to save them time and solve their problems. The other reason people pay for things is because they don't want to do it themselves. When people write books, they say, Jim, what should I put in the book? I say, everything. Every last piece of knowledge you ever had about what you want to do, put it in the book. And they say, I can't do that. I give away all my secrets. Guess what? People don't want to do it themselves. The vast majority of people want someone else to do it for them. They want their problem solved, they want their time saved, and they want someone to do it for them. And there you are with that credibility book and that thing that can help them, whether it's a consulting service, whether it's a membership site, whether it's a product download, whether it's speaking or whatever. Put it all in the book and then charge people to do it for them. It works, believe me. People pay because they don't like making mistakes. I speak a lot to entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I never was when I was younger, but I turned into one out of necessity. And people don't like to make mistakes. There's a lot of people who are fearful of failure. The greatest thing about these business models on the internet that we're talking about and having the book around them is you have the credibility from the book, and then you can go out and just create something and make a mistake with it. I made tons of mistakes in my efforts to create an online business for myself, and I've had tons of success with my membership site. Speaking of, I own a membership site called Author Marketing Club. I have over 30,000 members from over 110 countries all over the world. It's about 7 years old. And I have a free version and I have a paid version. Guess what the site does? It solves people's problems, saves them time, and gives them tools. And it's completely passive income. And the only thing I have to do on the site is create new content. People log in, they pay, they log in, they access the tools, the training, and they walk away. Right? It's passive income, but I'm doing all of those things. I'm saving them time, I'm solving their problems, and I use the books that I write to drive people into that. So what are you offering to people who want those things? And if you're not, what's stopping you from doing that? Because your book is the instant credibility builder and lead generator if you use it as such. Now, I always like to give it the plop test. You know, when I used to do consulting and walk in and sales into real offices with real people, you walk into a room and you drop that book. I don't care if it's a self-published version or a hardcover or whatever, and you plop it on the desk there. It's an instant credibility builder. I think everyone understands the concept of that. The truth is that you don't have to be traditionally published anymore to have that credibility. Just having something, even as an ebook form on Amazon, can do the trick for you. It is that helpful, and it's that small little thing that changes your closing ratio when you go to close somebody on a membership site sale or a product sale or a download sale, whatever that is. But I want you to start thinking about this concept of business around the book. Here's the other thing that people say. Nobody will pay for what I know. Big mistake, okay? It doesn't matter in most cases what your book about. It doesn't matter that you think people don't want to know what you know. What matters is you offer your expertise to a target of people who want the solution to the problem that you have. I think I've clearly illustrated that through some of those examples I showed you before. It doesn't matter how small or what your book is about, as long as there's I mean, let's be honest, there's got to be a target of people who are interested in it. Every once in a while I get a call from somebody who says, Jim, I've written a 17th century poetry book, and I want to know how I can turn that into a business or how I can sell more. I'm like, I'm sorry, there's just not that many people who are into that. There's just not. So, I mean, there are going to be those cases where you're going to write something or do it something, there's not going to be that many people involved. But in a general sense, if you're doing something sort of mainstream, you'll do very well. And I want to talk about the 1,000 True Fan thing here. Does anybody know what 1,000 True Fans is? Okay. Everybody, if you get time, go home and search for 1,000 True Fans. And I want you to write that down. And it's a little essay online. It's a theory that this guy came up with years and years ago. And basically the concept of 1,000 true fans is any type of content creator can live and build an entire business for 10 years or longer based on 1,000 true fans. And a true fan is somebody who buys everything you put out, drives 3 hours to see you at a concert in a snowstorm, talks about you without you having to ask, promotes you. That's a true fan. If you have 1,000 of those people, you don't ever have to advertise again because they'll do it for you. They'll buy everything. They'll put out every edition of every new book you put out, every new product you put out, they'll buy without question. And when you build that book credibility with that and you have the content supporting it, like a PDF download or a membership site, I'm getting a 10-minute call. This goes by so fast. You have that ability to build those 1,000 true fans. That's a really good thing to go read. I really highly suggest you spend time and read that because it changes the concept of how you think about how to sell content, not just books, but every type of content, videos, affiliate marketing, everything. It's really an amazing book. I could do a whole presentation on that. So what matters is what you do with this information if you are going to build a business around that book. Now, we're not spending time here talking about writing the book. We're not spending time here talking about marketing the book. We're talking about the business around the book. I want you to walk out of here today with that in your head. I want you to walk out here and go, Jim's right. I'm not going to make $100,000 from selling a copy of this book. Hey, you might, right? You might, and maybe you'll prove me wrong, but the truth is most people will not. So you have to be prepared to build that business around that book. Membership sites, downloads, instant downloads, consulting, speaking fees. I forget what other one I had in there. Oh, here we go. Courses. Oh my gosh. There are so many courses online. Who has taken an online course? Who's paid for an online course? Okay, leave your hand up if you've paid over $500 for an online course. So we got 5 people if you paid over $1,000 for an online course. Here we go, 6, 7. Yeah, okay, guess what? Run the numbers in your head now. If you sold 10 at $1,000, you're doing okay. It's a nice conversion monthly, isn't it? Having that book, pouring leads into a business where you're selling a $1,000 online course, where all you have to do is let somebody log in and watch the videos, is an amazing business. It's an amazing business. And if you have the credibility from the book, you're going to have a lot of success. Stop chasing pennies, okay? Start chasing the big ticket stuff. I've been at this conference since the very beginning. I was at the very first conference. My daughter was 1 year old at the first conference. She's 15 years now, okay? I've come to every one of these except for the last couple, 3, because I've been busy. But I know affiliate marketing. The big-time affiliate marketers in this event, first of all, you'll never know who they are because they'll never dress like they're big, fancy, rich people, but they're worth a lot of money. And they know they sell the big-ticket items because that's where you make all the money. They're not going and trying to promote Amazon links where you're going to get 20 cents for a sale of an ebook. They're promoting something that they're going to get $50 a lead, $150 a lead. Start thinking about that when you're building this business. A course that you can sell for $500 or $1,000, go back to that number. What was the number in your head? If it was $5,000, you got to sell 5 every month. That's it. How much effort do you got to put in every single month to sell 5 courses as opposed to 1,000 books? Which one's the smarter money to go after, right? Which one's the best way to do it? Would you rather spend most of your time going after 5 sales or 1,000 sales? You could give the book away for free, sell the book for 99 cents, and convert 5% of the people for a $500 course and make more money. Products, consulting. If you want to do consulting, do it. Jay Berkowitz, who just walked into the room, has an agency. He speaks all over the world, has books, right? He goes and he speaks, and he gets people come up at the end, and they give him his card, and then they hire him. You know, an agency. I have plenty of friends who do that. Service businesses, training, membership sites. There's so many different ways you can do this. But my point today was to make sure that you got the concept of it so that when you walk out of here, you don't focus on those little pennies on that book because that's going to be the thing that's going to stop you from being successful when you're like, I'm focused on book sales. I made that mistake. when my first book came out with Wiley, traditionally published, I made that mistake. I worked so hard to go out and try to sell copies of that hardcover book that they were selling for $25, whatever it was, And after all the cut from Wiley and everything, I made like $7 a book. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm making so much money for this publisher. Why am I doing this? And I ended up self-publishing from that point because I could make so much more money publishing books faster and building businesses around that book. So real quick, what type of business should I create around my book? Those are the big questions you have to ask yourself. Write that number down that you have and think about the options you have. What do I price it at for maximum revenue and conversions? Big question. This stops so many people dead in their tracks. Jim, I have no idea what I should charge. $10, $30, $150? Test it. Go on Facebook and go, hey, I'm thinking about putting this product or this thing together. And here's a little advice. Start high. Start at 300, right? I always go back to the pain level. How do I know if I'm pricing too high or too low? When you walk into the emergency room, what do they ask you? What's your pain level? You at a 1? You at a 10? When I had my kidney stones, I was at 11, right? They looked at my face and they took me straight in the back, right? You walk in, you're bleeding out of everywhere. You have to go right in the back. What's your pain level? What's the pain level of your customer? How big of a problem are you solving for those people? That's how you determine what to price. The difference between water and bottled water is a luxury item for us because we all have the ability to come and afford and do something like this. In certain parts of the world, bottled water is something essential. But in general terms, it's a luxury item. How much do people pay for luxury items versus needs? What's the big pain point that you solve for people? And how much that determines how much you could charge. How do I most effectively close sales? Well, the book is the greatest way to do it. It's the greatest way to do it in the world. In my book, Attention, at the back of the book, it said, last chapter said, if you would like to have some more information, do a free 15-minute, no-cost, no-obligation call from Jim Kukral. Go to this website, and you can do this still. It's connectwithjim.com, okay? And I did thousands of calls over a couple-year period. Guess what? That entire consulting things I did, and Jim, people were like, you did that many calls, Jim? I said, yeah. It was the greatest sales close I ever had in my life because they read my book, they contacted me, they got on my calendar, and I gave them a 15-minute help, and then I closed them into consulting business after when I was doing consulting. It's an amazing way to do business because it helps you close. How do you set up your sales funnel? How do you get people in, drive it? This is an internet marketing conference. You probably saw tons of content about how to set up landing pages, how to drive people through Facebook ads. You saw our keynote at the lunch talked about that. These are questions that you're going to need to answer on your own. But the basic concept of today was I wanted to get the idea in your head about how to use that business, that book to build that business around it so that when you walk out of here, you can be successful from that. So that's it. I want to take some questions. Does anyone have any questions about what types of businesses, or you want to give me an example of what type your book is, and we could potentially come up with an idea? Yes, ma'am.
Excellent. I'm interested in promoting two different hacking.
Hacking?
Well, life hacking.
Oh, life hacking. Okay.
And but one of them, I'm trying to figure out how to market. When you think about that pain point, should I be looking to see what the market is on Amazon and see those are posted already?
Yeah.
And then figure out what those voids are, order them to see what which are not.
Yeah, good thing to do is go look at Amazon and see what's selling. And I would buy the top books in there and read. In a general sense, if you're writing books, you should read 25 of the top books in that genre before you even write your book and see how they're doing it. But there are a lot of people. Look up a guy named Steve Scott. He writes a lot of life hacking books, and he's been very successful. He's published, I think, close to 100 books in the last 5 years, and he makes a ton of money selling books because he sells in a volume business. He sells a ton of books, and he has a little courses and stuff on the back end. He makes a killing. So go to Steve Scott and look up him for life hacking, and you'll get tons of inspiration about how to do that. In a general sense, though, it's hard to sell items like life coaching and stuff like that through books. I've tried that before. It's very difficult to sell those things because you really got to develop a relationship with someone before they trust you enough to purchase some type of life coaching event or things like that. But you can.
Being different in life coaching and giving people hacks around certain things that they can make money. The challenge I take with people when they are big like hackers is that they don't want to spend money. They would rather spend hours researching.
And
I don't know if I want to put my effort.
yeah. And that's a good point, so your question was, People don't want to spend money. That's a good point. There are some audiences of people who don't really want to spend money. There's always a difference between free people and people who want to pay, okay? It's difficult to convert free people from a free offer. It really is. So I would suggest that always price what you think it's worth for people, even if it's just a smaller amount, because the free people rarely ever convert. It's a very small level. I have time for a couple more questions. Yes, ma'am.
What is the best way to find speaking opportunities?
Okay, so I don't recommend traditional publishing anymore, but the only time I would is when you want to do a professional speaking career, because traditional publishers, the people who book speaking events, still value that hardcover traditional publishing book. So there's my time. So the best way to do it is to approach some publishers, right? Write the whole book. I would go after them, send some letters. You'll get rejected a bunch of times like I did. And it's a different business than it used to be. Frankly, I don't think it's worth it any longer to do. But mileage may vary with that. You may have some success. But I think it's better to just produce something quickly, put it out there, and use the book to build a business. The examples I gave you here today show you that. It's better to just get a book out there and use it to build something around it. If you're going to do traditionally published, you might wait 6 months to a year before the book comes out. I mean, who has that much time? I'm trying to build a business here. I'm not trying to build a book where I'm going to make a couple dollars from. So that's what I would do. I would self-publish. I'm sorry.
That's not what I asked.
Oh, what did you ask?
I asked, what are the best ways for speaking opportunities?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. You asked for speaking opportunities. One of the things that I've done in the past is I will take my book with a personal note and send it to the speaking people who book events, and they'll get it and they'll, they actually sent the book and things like that. But the speaking reel, you got to have a speaking reel. You want to get an agent, book agent if you can get one. But if you're going to do a professional speaker, you got to have a video reel. So if you don't have a video reel, you're going to have to go and get one made, speak free at an event, make your own event, get up there, hire a crew to come in, cheap local crew, get a video made so you have something nice done. I'd love to take more questions, but they're coming to get me. Yes, you can meet me outside. Thank you for coming. Hope you're inspired. Hope you find it exciting. Go do it.